morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Get Out and Explore with John. Today we're visiting the Nutmeg State, and we are going to be going to the highest point in Connecticut, Mount Frissell. We're here at the trailhead, and we're actually just across the border in Massachusetts, but the trail runs along the state line between Massachusetts and Connecticut, about a 2 to 3 mile hike over to Mount Frissell. And then we'll go down the south slope of Mount Frissell to the actual high point in Connecticut. From there, we're going to go about another third of a mile to the tri-point marker for Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New York. So looking forward to this hike. It's a little bit overcast, so I don't know if we're going to have much in the way of views when we get to the top, but we're going to give it a shot and we'll see what happens when we get there. So let's go hiking. Okay, we're leaving the trailhead now. It is about 10:30, August 16th, a Wednesday, and I don't think there's anybody else out here today, so we should have the entire trail to ourselves. So let's get to hiking and check out Mount Frissell. Some pretty cool mushrooms here on the side of the trail. Not really sure what kind they are. Look like they're about the size of a softball, so if anybody has any idea what these are, go ahead and put a comment down below so we can all learn together. Okay, it looks like we're following the red blazes on the trees and rocks here, but again, trail is pretty well defined, so I don't think we're going to have any problems staying on the trail. I've been hiking for a few minutes, and it's been pretty much a pretty flat trail here. As you can see, there are plenty of rocks, but a pretty easy trail, so no elevation gain at this point. We'll see how it goes when we get a little further along. Okay, so we're about a half a mile in on the trail. Starting to get a little bit of elevation gain here. Again, trail is very rocky, so you gotta be careful with your footing. And it is very humid today. They are calling for rain, trying to get up here before the rain sets in. So let's keep on going. Trail deceived you when you started off pretty flat. Now getting some serious elevation gain here. These rocks are very slippery because they're all wet, but I'm counting on the way back down it's being way easier than on the way up. I was going to tell you that this is a moderate trail, but I don't know, given the elevation gain here, this is bordering on strenuous. The length is not too much of a problem, but trying to get up the hill here, it's a little taxing. So we'll just go slow and steady. We'll get to the top eventually. Mount Frissell shares the distinction of being one of only 3 state high points that are not actually at the summit of a mountain. Well, it does look like we'd get some pretty nice views if we weren't socked in by the clouds. Hopefully this will clear off by the time we get to the top. I'll be able to give you some nice shots up there. Mount Frissell's summit and the majority of its slopes are within Massachusetts in the Mount Washington State Forest. There are numerous trails one can take to get to the summit of Mount Frissell. The one that I'm on is simply known as the Mount Frissell Trail. You will find the trailhead for this trail on the easternmost slopes of Mount Frissell. Traveling west on the trail, you will pass the Connecticut State Highpoint and the tri-state marker for New York, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. Continuing west, you will eventually connect up with the South Taconic Trail in New York. Traveling east from the trailhead, it is a short hike to the intersection with the Appalachian Trail. Okay, so I think the little section that I'm in right now is the saddle between, I believe it's Bear Mountain and Mount Frissell. So we get a little bit of a break here in between the two mountains, catch our breath. Okay guys, this is our objective for the day. That is Mount Frissell right there. We're about halfway to the approach and we'll start climbing. That's where we're trying to get to the top of. Once you finish that climb, trail seems to level off here up towards the summit of Mount Frissell, so we should be getting close to the summit. Well, we've made it to the top of Mount Frissell. Here's the summit register box right here. We'll sign the register in a minute. It took me about 40 minutes or so to get up here from the trailhead, 1.25 miles to this point. After the first, say, quarter mile or so, it got some serious inclines and the rocks were pretty slippery and treacherous. It's no joke getting up here. This is definitely not an easy trail, but we're up here. We're gonna get a drink, sign the register, and then we're gonna head down the south side of the mountain here, and that's gonna bring us across the state line back into Connecticut, and that's where we're gonna find the Connecticut State Highpoint. So, okay, as we're leaving the summit here of Mount Frissell, we're heading down south slope here. We're gonna lose about 75 feet of elevation to get to the high point of Connecticut. This mountain range is actually part of the Teutonic mountain range that runs along the border between New York, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. It's covered with a lot of quartz up here. Trying to watch my footing as I try and talk to you. Very humid today. Definitely got a sweat going, but very peaceful. Haven't seen anybody else out here on the trail, which, as you know, is the way I like it. So I've got about 1/4 mile or so to go to get to the Connecticut State Highpoint. So I'll meet you there. Coming down the south side of Mount Frissell. This is looking towards the east into Connecticut. Clouds are starting to lift a little bit here, so getting a little bit of a view. And down here, there's a big lake. I'm not sure which lake that is. I'll try to get the name and put it up on the screen for you. But I think we're getting close to the high point here. Looking south from Mount Frissell, the body of water that we see here is known as Rigga Lake. And at 1,900 feet in elevation, it is the highest body of water in Connecticut. Okay, we just crossed back over into Connecticut here. And now, we are now at the high point, the state of Connecticut. There's the marker right there, and the register. All right, we've arrived at the highest point in Connecticut, south slope of Mount Frissell at 2,382 feet above sea level. Makes this the 36th highest state point in the country and my 4th state high point. All right, we're going to go ahead and sign the register here, proving that I was at the Connecticut State Highpoint. And then we're going to head on down the trail to the Tri-Point between New York, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. There we go. All right, guys, about 5 minutes down the trail from the State Highpoint is the tri-state marker. Here it is for New York, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. Placed here in 1898. Do not see a carving for the state of Connecticut, which would be on this side here. It kind of leads me to think that there might still be some sort of border dispute between the states, but this is a tri-state marker. So we made it to the 3 objectives that we set out to do this morning. It's to climb Mount Frissell, get to the State Highpoint in Connecticut, and get to the tri-state marker here. So I love it when a plan comes together. All right, check me out, guys. I'm standing in 3 states at the same time. Pretty cool. New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts. Okay, well, I think that's going to do it for today's video. Hiking to the high point of Connecticut. I'm standing here at the Tri-State Point, and that was our last objective for the day. So hopefully you enjoyed the little hike up here, and maybe learned a little thing or two about the high point of Connecticut. And yeah, if you did, consider giving me a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. And like I always say, you never know what you're going to see when you get out and explore with John.